to the Overplayed podcast, the home of sports gaming in your ear every single Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My name is GoodGameBro, the one half of this podcast. The other half of this podcast is a gentleman that once was a beardless wonder, but we don't bring that up anymore. We now remind people that Mick Foley is back, aka Mills. Hey, Mills, how are you?
There's no Mick Foley. The beard isn't anywhere near that long yet. You see, just so you know. By the way, you realize we went about 10 minutes to start the last episode just at each other's throat.
I usually it's before the podcast started. So
I listened. Yeah, I listened to it back and I was like, "Oh my god, we're not a sports podcast anymore. We're essentially a comedy riff."
When I listen to the podcast back, I just basically I start playing it, and then when you talk, I mute the volume, and then I try to remember when you're going to stop talking. Then I unmute to hear myself talk. So
how long are those mutes?
Very long.
Extended muting. So yeah, so let's get into it because we got a lot to talk about tonight. Not a lot of topics, but a lot to dig into. Go over last week. We always talk about it. What have you been playing over the last week? What has been making you rage or making you joy?
Madden has been working on my new Xbox that I had to pay over market value for. So there's that. But I've been playing a lot of Madden, been messing around. The new college mode I wanted to play during lunch today. I just didn't have an opportunity to do so. It's just a busy day. Right. So I still need to try that out because I love like seeing, Vince Young and Reggae Bush and all those guys in there. But I am kind of pissed that Nebraska doesn't have Eric Crouch. Like they got a lot of really good guys for the Nebraska team, but there's no Eric Crouch for the Nebraska team, which just feels like a miss because he did briefly play in the NFL.
But Tommy Frazier, definitely a better quarterback for 100%, Nebraska.
100%. Yeah. But when you talk about like a guy that is iconic with that university, like you have to have Eric Crouch, right? You have to have Frazier, you have to have Ron Dane, you have to have a lot of those guys. But like Crouch could be that like Taysom Hill sort of like player, putting him into Madden. Like he's just too much fun to not have in Madden, in my opinion.
I feel like there's some licensing too. Like I feel like they had to get some of these players. I think we're gonna see a lot of these players possibly pop up in MUT as the season goes on. I don't think so. There's, for those who don't know, Campus Legends is a mode inside of Superstar KO where you can pick one of the 10 teams that were in Face of Franchise, and they're essentially like legend versions of them. Florida has Tebow and Percy Harvin. Kyle Pitts is on it, even though he just graduated. A lot of ex-players from the colleges, and you play each other in full 5-minute quarter games. You get, I think it's 1,000 yards on offense. You get an 85 Odell Beckham, which is kind of cool because he's in his LSU uniform on the card art, and you can actually use his card art in the power-ups. So I think this is the first time in MUT we'll be able to see something like that. And it's a cool mode. I actually got my 1,000 yards last night. And I have a highlight run with Tim Tebow where I'm glitching the juke stick because I've been learning. Hey, don't talk. Hey, listen.
I saw that video you posted of that guy, and I was like, yo, I got to figure out how to do this.
Paper Route Jeff. He is essentially the best 6-skill guy I've ever seen in Madden. He was the one, so he has a video up on how to do the juke that I did with Tebow, and that's where I learned it from. It's a lot of, NBA 2K is a lot of right stick if you want to dribble in place, but if you want to dribble forward, you should be using a left stick. Yeah. And like explosions are use the right stick until you want to move, then use the left stick. It's a lot of that in Madden. It's kind of crazy that if you want to start like a small juke, use the right stick and then use the left stick and turbo to kind of explode out of it. And it's an incredibly tough timing thing. It's a lot like NBA 2K, which is funny because you don't really think of Madden's movement in relation to 2K. But it is kind of cool. It's a mode I really enjoy for what it is. It has some of the college rules in there. It's only in for like a week, and I wish they had a single player kind of place for it. It's legitimately only Superstar KO. It has to be 1v1 or squads, and you can play a friend. So I hope we see more of that down the line. Obviously, now that they have the assets and everything for it. But it was fun. It's a lot. It wasn't sweaty either. I didn't run into anyone running, 335Y or gun bunch. I didn't run into any meta, which was kind of cool. And it was a lot of fun. My side, I haven't been playing something, but I've been digging into a new game. Interesting enough, coming out from 2K in March. They released a gameplay trailer and a new trailer for Marvel Midnight Suns, which looks right up my alley. Looks absolutely fantastic. For those of you that haven't heard of it, it is a new darker side of Marvel coming out from Firaxis, who made XCOM. It is a tactical. I'm gonna make this right the way. The combat is tactical strategy like XCOM, and also it's a card deck building game at the same time where you have to use cards that you randomly get at the start of battles to attack. There are combo attacks for the different heroes, stuff like that. But you also build relationships with the entire team, with like Doctor Strange, Captain America, Blades in it. So, and your relationships affect in battle. Like you can see ratings boosts or card boosts, stuff like that. It's a really interesting take on the XCOM universe, because one of the cool things about Firaxis and the XCOM universe is you've always felt a kinship to the soldiers you put out there. Mostly because they're persistent. If they die, they die. If they're there, you can level them up and you can name them. In this case, it's a very cool, like, if you grow a bond with Doctor Strange, you're risking him in battle. You only get to take 3 people out. The other really cool thing I took away from it is you get to create your own hero as the central point, called the Hunter. So the big baddie is Lilith, for anyone that knows Marvel Comics, the mother of demons. And you are apparently her spawn, or kid. Sorry, kid and spawn is interchangeable in this household. So you get to create your character, and you don't have set powers. You can literally grow powers and acquire powers as you go, or play however you want. If you use light side powers, apparently you get like a support system, or like more healing, or more, buffing. If you use the dark side, you're more damage based. I think that's a really cool thing to kind of, again, connect you with these heroes, having your own character and your own, and it looked like the character creation was pretty deep too. I'm really excited for it. It doesn't come out till March, but like, obviously it's a comic property, so anything comic I immediately dive into. And the cool thing they said today was very clear, is there's going to be no microtransactions that will be gameplay based. There is no loot boxes. It's literally just going to be costumes, which I'm cool with.
Yeah, I've loved the transparency that team has had. Obviously, with the tweet today talking about everything being cosmetic based. But that game is just right up my alley. I love Firaxis games. Like, I've played so much of XCOM. I used to, when that game first came out, I would like call up my friends, like, I'm going to create you an XCOM, and then when they would die, I would just send them like a screenshot of like, oh my god. And I like that franchise has just been fantastic. And so seeing what they're doing with Midnight Suns, like I'm hyped. I cannot wait. The roster looks incredible. It's a game that I've been like wanting to talk about, but I've just had to, wait until we publicly announce it and reveal some stuff.
Wait until it's publicly announced, and not just, privately, like, maybe footage leaks somewhere. I don't know. Anyway, I guess I should talk about this too before we get into this. I had an announcement sort of like the same way you had an announcement a couple weeks ago. The Next Makers program with 2K. I am officially a part of that as of this week. It was an announcement after last podcast, which is one of the reasons I'm talking about Midnight Suns. It's not an ad. I actually like what I see out of the game, but I am working as a creator with them, with NBA, WWE. Jesus, the list. I'm in too many of the creator channels, honestly. WWE, NBA, PGA, and Midnight Suns looks like what I'll be working with, and really excited about that program. And strangely enough, as I put on Twitter, that does kind of mean that at times, at very, very individual and set times, not all the time, I may have to report to you in some capacity.
This is a long con. I took the job at 2K solely for the ability to have some sway over you. And also, I just want to say, as many times as I try to tell them, don't let Mills in this program in any way, shape, or form, they still ignore what I said.
I swindled my way in. I swindled my way in on Corey and Mitchell's shoulders. So unfortunately, it's unfortunate. So I can't be fooled well before you had any questions about that. I'm talking. We're sorry, too much inside baseball right now. So let's get into it. So we have a massive show today. We're going to be talking about NBA 2K22, obviously, to start off the show. For those of you wondering about the sports side, we'll be giving our AFC preview of the entire league. We're going to go division by division like we did with the NFC last week. We'll be giving our Super Bowl preview, and we're talking about a high school that's not actually a high school, but got on ESPN to play IMG, which is essentially the premier high school program in the nation. But in football, like they've been doing this con for 3 years. So before we get into that, let's talk about NBA 2K22. Massive. They got their gameplay trailer. They launched with it. It's a sizzle trailer. It is what it is. You don't get a lot off of sizzle trailers. It's just supposed to look cool. John Morant looked kind of awesome with a couple of dunks. We got to see Carmelo Anthony diving over the scoreboard table in a gameplay situation, not just like a cut scene, which was kind of cool. So it looks like Entering the Stands will be back for, diving for balls. Some cool animations instead of just sliding into the sideline and just kind of freezing there. But the big thing we got was NBA 2K22 also released their gameplay courtside report. A ton of information in this courtside report, including updates to defense, dribbling. I mean, pretty much every aspect of gameplay they talked about very openly and very transparent. We're going to start off here with, it's funny because this is kind of near and dear to my heart, is that when it comes to basketball, I like to think of myself as more of a defensive guy. I like defensive players. I like people that can shut guys down, big bodies in the middle. It's kind of why I was attracted, to you as a friend because of the Gobert connection. You know what I mean?
I am a, incredible defensive player in my own right. So
they call me big fundamental on the court. You know that?
They call me.
Don't.
They just call me a demigod because I'm just unstoppable and unfair.
So sorry I set you up for that. Anyway, it's interesting because in this gameplay courtside report, which was written by Mike Wang, Baluba, but also brings up Czar a lot of times, an old OS guy, Sim Nation old head. And he has been known for a lot of the playbook stuff that's been going on offense, and a lot of the offensive tendencies, which have made offenses. I mean, I think if you look at the game, you put the game on CPU versus CPU, or you play 5-on-5, one of the standouts of the game is how efficient offense is in this game. It's so well done. Whether you're running plays, you're running freelances, or you're just coming up the court and dribbling, they've got a system for every single type of player. But defense was highlighted first in this courtside report, talking about give gamers the tools to really change the outcome on the defensive side, which is something that 2K has lacked for a very long time. It's very tough to get body without fouling. It's very tough to time blocks. It's very tough. Last year, the challenge system for shots was I mean, inconsistent at best, I would think. You could have a 96% chance of somebody that was behind you on a layup while you could be right in somebody's face and get 10%. It was a very weird system. So all of that's been completely rebuilt. The shot contest, the blocking, there are new snatch blocks, volleyball spikes. And they said that the main thing they want to do here is they want to reward basketball IQ. You're going to hear that term multiple times in this gameplay update. So talk to me about what you think. Do you think it's a thing that they pointed out defense first? Do you think that was a purposeful point to put defense at the top of, and it's easily the largest portion of this courtside report, by the way, to bring up defense and defensive AI as a point?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at 2K21 and you look at sort of like where complaints were, you just look at Twitter, right? Look where people were sort of complaining about. Obviously, the one thing
my Twitter constantly.
Yeah, but if you look at some of the things that were talked about, things either stemmed from two core topics, right? One being shooting in some capacity, a lot of that being like the Zens, or people thinking, like, oh, I should have green more, or I'm hitting full whites, or like whatever that essentially was, right? But then you also have people that were talking about like defense is just really tough. You saw different builds, you saw things that weren't really maybe a priority for different ratings that people could get by with, and sort of not having them in that category built out and still play somewhat defense, or just not really have the opportunity to like not get dunked on consistently. And so for me, I think this was very purposeful, right? Putting defense out at the very top of the block. You talk about shot blocking. There's talking about post interior defense a lot for this, as well as hitting on sort of, perimeter defense too. This is, I think, a W, right? Everyone knows that every year offense, not just in NBA 2K, but in every game, offense is also the one that's more often catered to, right? You look at Madden, you look at MLB, you look at NHL. Offense is always catered towards. And sometimes defense gets like and we did X, Y, and Z on defense, right? But to have them come out and say like defense, the very first thing, and have a good chunk of their piece about it, I love it. I love that they're talking about feel. I love that they're talking about perimeter and post. obviously we have to get the game into our hands to see fully, but I'm definitely excited.
I love that they got specific too. It's not just, hey, we updated the defensive AI. Hey, we updated the shot contest. Like, they've always been very good about being open in terms of details. They talk about the shot contest rewrite, remove the ghost contest, what I just talked about. You get a 90% contest out of nowhere. They talk about floor defenders, body rise ups, bumps, unwanted bump steals have been removed for more like snatchy animations, for good timing. Low rated stealers are slower than high rated stealers. Like the ratings for steal actually matter instead of just, running into the path of the ball, like was what happened a lot in triple threat last year. That was the way for triple threat, is literally run at the dribble hand. You could run at the dribble hand, you could interrupt the animation. That was a thing. That's supposedly getting looked at. Again, I mentioned the czar first time. Like, the czar is being moved from like the offensive side to the defensive AI, which is big because of like pick and roll defense. Pick and roll defense is one of the most specific things that happen in the NBA now. There are so many different ways to do it. And unfortunately, last year, hedging, catching, like icing, they were all there, but incredibly inconsistent. And that went along with defensive communication, where you could turn that on and like say, like the computer would tell you, hey, step up or not, and the computer wouldn't do what they were saying. So it even says brand new hedge defender logic and behaviors give the catch hedge defender a specific focus for how they react, instead of, kind of saying what they're going to do and doing something else or changing. In the past, here you go, I'll just read from it. In the past, the hedge defender's primary focus was their man, which led the AI to actively, like I just said, actively abandon the ball handler. This cascaded into several issues, including the ball handler would have an open lane, which in turn would force help to come from the strong side, leaving easy open jumpers in pick and roll situations. So instead of good rotation, you would literally just get open on the wing. You get open 3-pointers on the wing, and while in like regs, you can probably get away with that once in a while. You get into ultimate team, you get to my team, dude, you can't do that in my team. There are 4s and 5s that have 99 rated like 3-pointer by the time like November runs around. You can't do that. So this year, the hedge defender can focus on the ball and play 2 offensive players intelligently, covering the deepest threat, which is great. Again, and you have all the control you want over that, as little control you want over that, doing everything you want there. And this really gets me, because again, I know this comes from Czar, not just like the gameplay team. This is a Czar statement. This year marks the most significant update to the fundamental defensive rotations we have ever done. We now have the ability to have both single and double rotations to take away the first or second passing lanes once help defense is triggered. And it just goes on and on. And I'm telling you right now, I know you've spoken to Czar before.
Sure.
I've spoken to Czar. We've known him for a long time. Those are Czar words. Like, that is a Czar statement. That is not taken from anybody else. You could go to literally like, tonight in TNT, you could go to anybody, you go to Reggie Miller and be like, explain help defense to me. And Reggie's like, well, this guy does this. Czar's like, no, this is what happens. This is what's supposed to happen. I mean, that's very refreshing to hear that the defense was focused on so much. Really cool. And that's only good for the game. Only good for the game because, well, I take it back, because I know some content creators that are going to be playing my team this year that are going to see defensive rotations and go, how does that do that? Why can't I score? Why is it not green? And I can't wait, man. I can't. I just watch and go, yeah, baby, learn some basketball now. So, next up, we talk about dribbling. They talk about offense will obviously never be neglected in a 2K basketball. Ton of new basic size up, ton of new signature size ups. But what I thought was interesting was Mike Wang on his Twitter page said that dribbling is going to be more 20 than it is 21. Which I think 21 was very animation based. Obviously, we talk about the Curry slide in my team a lot. We had like David Robinson doing the Curry slide by like season 3, and I love the Admiral. Don't get me wrong, but I don't need to see the Admiral doing back and forth behind the back, constantly.
I try to do that in the gym. I saw so much Curry slide in 2K that I tried to do that when I played pickleball. It didn't work like it did in 2K.
Yeah, so. No, it's I'm very happy to see that. So, ton of new combos, cancels, which I think people ignore a lot. More advanced move, but cancels can be amazing ways to explode. Move chains, drag dribble, hezzies, spin, like they just go into it constantly. If you have not read this, you definitely should. And they're adding 4 new WNBA dribble styles for Simone August, Chelsea Gray, Arike Ungambole. I got the last name wrong. I'm so close to it. I had heard someone say it. And Gabby Williams. So along with the new WNBA online that they're going to have, or the W, you're actually going to get signature dribbling styles for the women, which is kind of awesome. Big change here because dribbling's always going to be a big thing. Especially as my teamers and Parkers are always going to look for, the money or the cheese or the meta dribbles. And I think this is one of these years they're very much focused on stopping that. How do you, when you read the dribble, what went through you?
To me, look, some of the people I watch a lot of like people play 2K, whether it's YouTube or streaming on every different platform. The dudes and chicks that know how to dribble in this game blow my mind. Like they're on a different planet when it comes to dribble. Like you watch some of the dribble guys, like Red City comes to mind, right? Like,
yep,
you watch him put some stuff together, and I'm like, I think I have no idea how you essentially did that. So look, this obviously needs a ton of attention. There were a lot of things that were exploited. The Curry slide being something that was synonymous, so everyone knew about that essentially, yep. Right?
Speed bursting, speed boosting was off of dribbles, yeah.
100%. To me, one thing that I definitely love though is that they said it towards I believe the end is they said that last gen and next gen are going to have identical sort of controls and moves and combos there. To me, that's fantastic, right? People still can't even get a next gen console, but when they are able to, they'll be able to have a seamless transition rather than trying to figure out how to do it on next gen after playing on previous gen. So to me, this is again sounds great, and I'm happy to hear it.
And again, it's going to be one of those things, especially with sports games and how competitive people get online. You're always going to have to focus on meta and try to fight the meta as the season goes on. Like I said, I think the Curry slide was too far away, but it looks like a lot of more timing is going to be done. And again, if the defensive upgrades are what they say they are, I thought next gen last year was a much more defensive game, especially with body size. They have to also find a way to let smaller defenders, the Chris Pauls of the world, and in like Patrick Beverley in his heyday, like those kind of guys have to be more how am I going to say that? Have to be more effective defensively, and hopefully the shot contest system, will do something for that. The next 3 were kind of like jumped through, and I think that was purposefully, but I was excited to see that post play was not ignored. I know post play is kind of fading from the NBA, but we saw teams like the Knicks. Obviously the Bucks used a lot of it last year. The Sixers used a lot of post. Well, they might not be using as much post play after Ben Simmons requests a trade, but more post play happening in the less post play happening in the NBA. But they're saying they're giving more fakes, more twirls, more control, more disengaged face up moves for people that like to do back to the basket. I think that's big for 2 reasons. 2K League, I think, 2K League is always good when you can see different styles. And I think that 2K League went away from back to the basket this year because it was highly ineffective. I think we're going to see a better 2K League because of that. By the way, if you don't watch the 2K League, watch the 2K League. It is incredibly entertaining. One of the best sport game esports going. And then secondly, just, people that want to be centers in this game, want to be 7-footers that don't want to have to be, 3-point shooters or stretch guys. Like there are people that want to bang inside. That's cool to see for this.
Yeah, agreed. To me, like I think expanding the post controls and letting players have like all the different moves to allow them, like I would love to see someone play like Olajuwon, right? Like we just don't see that, and having the different styles of dominate is going to be great. I think another piece that they touched on, which I think will be massive this year, is sort of alley-oops now have sort of the timing mechanism to them this year.
Yep.
If people to play more in the higher level, if you're playing like a pro-am or you're playing a lot of like the 5v5 sort of stuff, that's a massive thing, because the one thing people saw all the time is the guard drives in, he throw an alley-oop to the center, it's pretty much automatic, and then you can't really do anything about it. Now the centers just can't be lazy and sit in the block. They actually have to be having a timing mechanic to that. I think it will be maybe jarring is too strong of a word. I think it will be jarring to some people, I think, initially, but I think when you actually get into the flow of the game and play with it, you're going to say this is actually a really cool addition to the game.
Also, they gave shot protectors more abilities to stop dunks, not just alley-oops, but dunks in general, which is going to be cool because I think we're going to see a lot more dunking this year. Because the last thing I saw under finishing was they have the new dunk style creator this year where you can actually customize your entire like dunk package, not just like two-handers off the rim. It looks like it's gonna be much more customizable. Last thing I want to mention about this, besides obviously new builds, new takeovers, new badges, we knew those were coming. But shooting is always a hot button topic at NBA 2K. Talk to me about the new shot meter. It's they're calling it the dynamic shot meter. Shot aiming hasn't been mentioned, so we don't know if it's going to be in or not. My guess is they probably, with the whole Zen issue, don't want to get it in there, but we don't know that yet. But this dynamic shot meter sounds kind of cool.
Yeah, I think the weird thing that I saw is most people were sort of talking about it more so from the visual sort of aspect. Like the PlayStation blog had a an asset within there that sort of, it shows Luka sort of coming up, hitting his like hezzy step back, and he sort of shoots. But I think the shot meter is going to make a little bit, people have more of an emphasis on like how tired are their players, what kind of shots are they essentially taking. Like I think you're going to have to be, I'm not calling anyone dumb, but you have to be more intelligent about like the context of the game, the moment, all that stuff.
Say the term. Basketball IQ. I like the fact that they are focusing on a smarter basketball game. That is always one of the things that I harp on when it comes to like higher difficulties or online. Like I want people to have stick skills. People with good stick skills deserve to have an advantage in stick skill areas, but you still have to be smart. I want gone are the days where people are coming up over the half court line just because they have extended or range extender and can do a spin move, or a spin back jump where you have no hope of contesting it, and green. I don't want you to have a chance of green to that. I don't think you should have a chance of green that. And I've watched too many content creators find ways to like literally do that with Curry, Kevin Durant, whoever you want to talk about. And again, I watch a lot of my team too, so this is more there than it is in regs. But I'm tired of seeing that. I want to see, if somebody comes up and tries to dribble with one guy all the time, I want to see him fatigue. Like I think that's and fatigue. God, fatigue was non-existent in my team last year. You could literally run your just starting lineup and go from there.
Yeah, fatigue I think is just something that has to play more in sports games than what it has been. I think Madden obviously brought in progressive fatigue. People have been wanting progressive fatigue in that game for God knows how long. We finally get it sort of, I think it might have been in at one point, but we're getting it back in or in. So happy to see that. It's funny you mentioned the half court or near half court threes. Someone just crosses sort of that threshold.
Yep.
Mike Wang also did confirm on Twitter that the following badges are removed from 2K22. Heat Seeker, Highlight Film, Anti-Freeze, Hot Shot, Ice and Veins, Tireless Shooter, Relay Passer, Clutch Defender, Hard Crusher, Hard Stopper, Trapper. Most importantly, Deep Threes now gone from the game.
And which also means, by the way, Circus Threes for next gen. I know Deep Threes and Circus 3 were separated. I actually wouldn't mind seeing Circus Threes as long as it didn't extend the 3-pointer, but yeah, there's no reason to have guys shooting consistently from half court. If Curry comes across once in a while and hits one, Dane comes across once in a while and hits one, I'm okay with that. But being able to repeat that feat should not happen. Just shouldn't happen. So so 2K looking up next Friday. I mean, they're putting out, this is the latest I've ever seen information come out on 2K. And honestly, I don't think it's a bad idea. They're they let Madden have their time. They let, and let's be fair, every company knows when other games release. MLB The Show very clearly put out some content right when Madden released. They're putting out content when 2K releases too. Team Affinity 4 drops the same damn day, which kills me, but that's okay. I have really high hopes for 2K this year, man. I'm stoked for it. I'm ready for it. I'm ready to drop a couple $100 night one because that's what I do. I love support.
What a flex.
It's not even a flex. Like I'll always tell people not to buy packs or only spend the money you want to spend. And it is definitely entertainment money for me. But you know what, man? Like if 2K puts out a good product, I don't have a problem throwing a couple $100 that way. And every once in a while and saying, hey, look, let's open some packs. Let's have some fun on the stream, that kind of stuff. So very, very cool. Very cool. Talking about money, let's talk about money and how much a national appearance gathers you, because I want to spend more time on this at some point. I don't think we can spend a ton of time on this, but Bishop Sycamore is I'm going to use high school in quotation marks, high school football team that played on ESPN last week and got destroyed 58-0 by IMG, who is the premier. I mean, they've got almost every one of their players. They're essentially exactly, because every one of their players are committed to a Division I team, almost every one of them. But Bishop Sycamore for the last 3 years they went 0-6 last year. They only scored 42 points. That's not the worst part of all of this. They played a game 2 days before playing on ESPN, and in the middle of the ESPN game, the commentators were like, so we talked to the coaches and they said that they had some Division I prospects on this team, but we couldn't verify. Like, we tried our scouting to this is the middle of the game, by the way, when they're getting destroyed by IMG. It turns out most of their players were fake named. They lied about recruiting. The address of the high school is a residential house in Ohio. Most of their players were 19 years old and over and dropouts from junior college. Their head coach during the ESPN game had an active warrant out for his arrest. He has since been fired. I don't know how you get fired from a high school that doesn't exist, by the way. No, Bishop Sycamore has no record of existing. They play in the TCAL, the Texas Football League down there. They have duped other schools who refuse to comment on playing them. The list literally goes on and on. They put out like a printed roster that looked like it was made in Excel that they were giving to commentators that had names of people that were never on the team. Dude, there was a game where they got beat, where there's video of them coming out of the tunnel, like tripping over each other in generic jerseys. There was a game where they came with black jerseys because they don't have white jerseys and had to play black jerseys against black jerseys.
They share helmets as well.
Yeah, exactly. They said they forgot their white jerseys. They don't have white jerseys. It's insane. And the worst part is they started a GoFundMe. An elite high school started a GoFundMe for 20 grand. They made $140. And there were reports coming out. There were reports coming out that literally said they had players sleeping on the floors. They had to watch them. They got in fights constantly. There were assaults that happened during this time. Listen, a lot of people put the blame at ESPN's feet. It's not them. There was a marketing agency that got Bishop Sycamore on TV. So first of all, it's not ESPN's fault. ESPN, whenever they do this, it is normally a marketing agency. Could ESPN have verified? Yeah, sure. But they pay the marketing agency to do. How in the world has it been going on for 3 years? This has been going on since 2018.
I have a theory, right?
Okay.
I've worked my previous job. I worked with a lot of agencies, right? When I was running influencer esports marketing, I had to hire agencies as I had all these brands and I needed help. This didn't happen to me, but I've heard stories of sometimes agencies are willing to do sketchy things or hire people so that they can stuff their own pockets, right? So if an agency says, okay, I'm just throwing out numbers. I don't know what these numbers are. If the agency has a budget of like $50K, what if that agency looked up Bishop Sycamore, got approached by them? It was like, yo, this seems sketchy AF, but
right,
we could probably hide this a little bit. They told Bishop Sycamore, like, okay, cool, we can do this, but they're just going to skim some off the top, right? So they're telling Bishop Sycamore like, oh yeah, it's going to cost whatever, or they're doing all these different fines or whatever, but they tell ESPN they need more. They can hide money through a school like Bishop Sycamore, and I think that Bishop Sycamore is wild, right? Like these stories coming out from them are insane. But I would not be surprised if this agency wasn't doing something that led to them hiding money through Bishop Sycamore or leveraging them in some way to put more money into their pockets. And they're obviously going to get fired, right? This is a national disaster. ESPN is not going to keep them on.
Mm-hmm.
But if a lawsuit comes out, I wouldn't be surprised if there was something alleged of inflated pricing or something of them doing something weird here.
This is crazy. Like the list goes on and on. The coach was asked about, after losing in the game before IMG, the coach was asked about, hey, is this your team? He goes, no, we have two teams. We have a local team and a national team. The national team will be there against IMG. Either there's like 15 player overlaps. And then wait a second, you have 15 players that are going to play for both teams 2 days beforehand. Like this is maybe the craziest sports story of the year. There are phone calls where people dropped off, miraculously just started leaving. I'm blown away. The coach was fired from a school that didn't exist. They used to be known as Christians of Faith Academy. They went 1-11. Like they literally kept getting high school games. The kids that were there were calling their parents saying, oh yeah, we're going to go to class starting next week. And they would continuously tell their parents that while sleeping on the floor of residential addresses. Like this is insane.
I read a tweet this morning. I just had to find it, but this is my favorite tweet related to Bishop Sycamore. Credit goes to Charles J. Moore, Charles 270 on Twitter.
Yeah.
He said this is about Bishop Sycamore. He says there's a grown man limping around his factory job in Ohio because he played 2 high school football games this week.
This is great. The other meme that I saw going around, which is kind of hurts a little bit here to see this, but did you see the picture of Cam Newton saying it was the newest Bishop Sycamore signing as the quarterback?
Oh no!
It's like, come on. Cameron Magruder puts up, I've accepted a full ride scholarship to Bishop Sycamore. Last played intramural football at University of Florida. The guidance counselor was like David Sean King is the guidance counselor. It went on and on and on. So, So if you want to see more of the full story, just Google Bishop Sycamore. I promise you, it will be worth your time. Funny enough, the Bishop Sycamore, like the shortening of it is BS, of course. So, but let's get into some real football, some football that's actually happening. The AFC, we went over the NFC last week. You picked the Rams against the Buccaneers in the NFC Championship game with the Rams coming out into the Super Bowl. I chose the Washington football team, who should have a name by now, and I don't think anyone's really talking about that, and they really should. You picked, or I picked them against the Buccaneers as well. We're going to go into, hold on one second. I just make sure I get this right real quick. I just had the site up and now I don't. Sorry about that. There it is. CBS. Okay. So, we're going to go over the NFC this time. And we want to go, what we want to do here is I'm going to give you the comings and goings of every team. And you were going to tell me, hold on one second. Sorry, I got all kinds of music going in my ear. You're going to tell me what you think about the NFC. Or the AFC. We're going to talk about first, we're going to talk about the AFC East. We're going to talk about the Bills, the Patriots, who have a very recent going, the Dolphins, who may have a more recent incoming soon, and the New York Jets. So let me get 1 second here. I want to get the transaction report up. Why don't have that? I don't know. There we go. No, that's not either. Jesus, give me 1 second.
No, you're fine. I'm excited about the AFC more than I am the NFC. I think there's probably the NFC felt a little bit more clear cut to me for a lot of divisions, but I think as we jump into the AFC, a lot of these are a little bit more closer than what we might have had on the NFC side.
Yeah, and let's be very fair here. They are. How do we put this? The NFC is soft this year.
Wow.
The NFC is incredibly soft this year. It's pretty much the Rams, the Buccaneers, and everybody else. Like, I'm picking Washington to, because I have a feeling about them, but I would be surprised if the Rams or Buccaneers, injuries notwithstanding, aren't the ones that come out of this. So, let's talk about hold on one second. Where's this? You know what?
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mill's first time
I know
ever
it's
using
killing
the
me.
internet.
I had an entire like by division.
It's fine.
Report.
You get a little bit older. It's harder to use the computer. You don't know where your cursor is on your screen. Like, I get it. It's tough.
At least this time I didn't have to be like bad for me. You actually did it.
I mean, I was watching you in shambles. It was kind of funny, so I felt bad for you.
Off season move. There we go. Thank you. Jesus Christ. All right, here we go. We got it. Free agency moves. So the AFC, we're going to start off with the let's start with the Patriots. The biggest thing for the Patriots right now are very obviously they just released Cam Newton. They have chosen Mac Jones to be their number one. That's their guy. That's their guy. So talk to me about Mac Jones, rookie Mac Jones, taking over a Bill Belichick offense where they've got guys like Jacoby Myers, one of the better offensive lines. They just sent Sony Michel because, let's be fair, it doesn't matter who the running back is in New England. Bill Belichick uses about 20 of them at some point. Talk to me about about what you think about the Patriots in this case.
Yeah, I think my biggest issue, I think whether they had Mac Jones or Cam Newton, I think they were going to be fine at quarterback, right? Like, I don't think the quarterback position for them was going to be anything crazy just because how Belichick sort of schemes. He's got 700 running backs every year. He's going to switch every game. Who's going to be the dominant running back? He's going to have one dude that's always getting 8, 9, 10 catches a game. Like, it's always something weird for what Belichick is going to essentially do.
Right.
My concern more so with the Patriots is the defense, right? How is the defense going to be this year? Is Stephon Gilmore going to be the guy he was 2 years ago? Or is he the guy that we saw last year, which gives you a little bit of cause for concern? If that defense is fine, if that defense ends up being top 12, top 10, Patriots are going to be fun. Right. If that defense is more so like 15 to 20 or worse range, I don't think it matters how good Mac Jones plays. I don't think Mac Jones is going to be rookie of the year material. I think he's going to be fine. He's going to make good decisions. He's going to be if Joe Flacco were good, essentially, right? Like, I think he'll be.
Why do you do that? Why do you do that? Come on.
I think he'll be fine. I don't, again, see anything crazy for Mac Jones, but I think he'll be a solid rookie quarterback that's not breaking anything crazy. He's not hurting you either, but they're going to rely on that defense heavily this year.
I do think defensively they're going to be very good. Remember, they picked up Matt Judon from Baltimore, who's an elite pass rusher. They're still going to have Hightower and Van Noy on the inside. J.C. Jackson really stepped up last year as a very good shutdown cornerback, and they've got Jalen Mills back there. Devin McCourty still at free safety, which is going to be a big thing for them. As long as they stay healthy, I know they got guys like Christian Barmore out of the draft. They got Sean Wade, by the way. Keep an eye on that kid out of Ohio State who was drafted deep in the draft by Baltimore and traded over to New England. That was the one trade that I really wish Baltimore didn't make. They just didn't have room for him. That kid's going to be something special, and he's going to be one of those guys that New England's going to be for years holding over Baltimore's head. Let's go into one of their main competition for the AFC East title. We're going to talk about the Buffalo Bills. They pick up Emmanuel Sanders for the Saints, Matt Breida, who looks like he may very well get more carries this year in Buffalo instead of from the Dolphins when he did, because he's looked better than Singletary and Moss combined. Trubisky's the backup. I mean, that's a nothing. Marquez Stevenson, who could very well be a good return specialist for them, and Jacob Hollister from the tight end from the Seahawks. Not a lot picked up on the defensive side, but defense was never a problem for the Bills. Talk to me about the Bills and where you think they end up in terms of the AFC East.
Yeah, this is the Bills' division to lose, in my opinion. The only thing that really derails that is if Josh Allen goes down. They have 3 good running backs who I think are all going to be fine. Yes, Breeders look great. Zach Moss is no slouch. Singletary has obviously shown that he can be the guy that takes the lion's share of the carries. You're going to be fine. They have Stephon Diggs as their leading receiver. They're going to be okay. But if Josh Allen is either injured or struggles, this team goes as far as Josh Allen essentially is willing to take them. He is a big arm. Dude's mobile. He made really good decisions last year. He showed great growth. I think a lot of people, even myself, had like doubted him for a while, but
Hmm?
I mean, a while. He's been in the league. This is now his third year, I believe. But
Right.
Allen is showing that he could be the franchise guy, and they just paid him like the franchise guy, which is the other equation. This man's going to be making, I guess, like 200 plus mil over the course of 6 years with the extension, I think, sort of built into that. So we'll see. A lot of pressure on him and that team, but if I were a betting man, which I'm not, I would be a better than you. I would vote for the Bills to definitely win this division.
I will say this: Josh Allen had an MVP caliber season last year. You're asking him to repeat that, which means you would have to believe that Josh Allen is that guy. The thing is, I don't really think that there's another team in that division that is put together as well as them. That is notwithstanding a possible. We'll talk about the Dolphins here in a second.
Yeah.
A possible trade for the Dolphins, which has been rumored this week. I love the Emmanuel Sanders pickup, especially because you don't want to bring it up, but if there was a team that was going to get hit with COVID, there are a lot of Bills players that have come out and pretty much said that they do not want to get vaccinated, and Cole Beasley kind of leads that charge. I like the pickup of Emmanuel Sanders. I like the idea. I think Stephon Diggs is a top 3 receiver in the NFL. He runs amazing routes. Josh Allen and him have amazing chemistry. I think this team still wins the East 100%, but I agree. If something happens to Josh Allen, this team is in shambles. Like Mitch Trubisky is the backup. Just so we're clear, Mitch Trubisky is the backup. Be very careful. Yeah. Let's talk about the Dolphins and the Jets together here. Probably the bottom of the division for both teams. Although some people think the Dolphins are way better. They picked Jalen Waddle for the Dolphins in the 6th overall pick. They get Will Fuller from the Texans. Injury, but pretty good down the field threat. Jacoby Brissett, who is probably going to back up Tua. Malcolm Brown, who is looking very good coming over from the Rams to back up Myles Gaskin. Leon Eichenberg is the 2nd round Notre Dame tackle. I've talked about Notre Dame and their offensive line history, and only really lost. I mean, Fitzpatrick, I think, was already off the team because he was backing up Tua. I don't really think losing Kyle Van Noy was. I mean, he was good, but he wasn't like they've got players to replace him on defense. So we have the Dolphins, who also there's a rumor going around that Deshaun Watson may be headed to Miami. That worries me for 2 reasons, honestly. Obviously, off the field. We've talked about the Deshaun Watson problem before, and it's said that the Texans want 3 first-round draft picks and 2 second-round draft picks. Tua wasn't even mentioned in the deal. The picks were. That's a lot to give up. Like, that's Ricky Williams. You're approaching Ricky Williams level. The other thing is, that's not the best way to instill a lot of confidence in your second-year quarterback to say, oh, well, we may go after, a better quarterback. What do you think about the Deshaun Watson rumors, and what do you think about the Dolphins?
Dolphins are in shambles. I think talent-wise, the Dolphins have the potential to be a number 2 team, right? I think there's potential there in that division. If you brought in Watson, talent-wise, all the off-the-field stuff out of there, they are making the case for like, hey, they're 1B. I think they're like, they can really make a push. Brian Flores has blown me away, but from what he's done in Miami in his tenure, he's been a phenomenal coach. But I think the issue we're seeing here is Brian Flores preaches about culture, right? He's like, this is a culture team. We want culture fits. We want the right people here. And then we're bringing in Deshaun Watson, who previous to these allegations, you would argue is a culture fit anywhere, right? Like everyone thought Deshaun Watson was a good dude.
You never really heard from him outside of performance. Like, you didn't hear anything about him before this.
It was basically the story that we'd always heard was the running work done. Yep. His foundation, building the house for Deshaun Watson. And that was always the connection we sort of had seen. When there are 20 plus, I guess technically allegations that essentially have come through around Deshaun Watson.
Right.
It's where there's smoke, there's fire. Do you want that? Like, I don't want to call it a distraction because it's significantly more than a distraction, but for lack of a better term, do you want that distraction with your team, your organization, your fans, like all of that stuff? So I'm sure because it's football and football teams do football things, we'll probably still see Deshaun Watson in there. I just can't imagine where they wouldn't trade Tua as a part of that package, just because you can't bring him in and then have Tua just chilling there. Like, that just, you have to get him out, if not to Houston, to somewhere else. But I still think the Dolphins are just, even without Deshaun, I think they're still a very good team. I just worry a little bit. I mean, it's going to be his first real year starting the whole time. Flores can't really pull him and bench him every half because he feels like it. I just have too many questions about the Dolphins to feel confident about them.
Yeah, I agree. I will say they have a lot of talent. So Mike Gesicki at the tight end spot. I think Eichenberg fits well on that line from Notre Dame. They got Devontae Parker, Albert Wilson, Jalen Waddle's going to see a lot of time. They've got Mac Hollins already catching passes for them. Jakeem Grant, he's one of the better playmakers if you get the ball in his hands. And the defense is there, man. Like Xavier Howard and Byron Jones, man, in the cornerbacks. You got Eric Rowe and Jason McCourty in the back end of that. Andrew Van Ginkel, Andrew Van Dolphin is there, as they call him. And Jerome Baker on that line, or I'm sorry, in that linebacker position. Emmanuel Ogba, one of the premier pass rushers in the league. I really do believe that there is a lot of talent on this team. I agree with you putting it together. I'm not a Tua guy. I don't believe Tua is going to be the answer in Miami, which brings up the idea of Deshaun Watson. I think they don't think he is either. So, and they're going to have to compete. I think the Patriots are going to be very tough this year. If Mac Jones pulls through, the Bills are absolutely going to be tough this year. I think the Dolphins are built for speed, and I hope they're good, but we'll see. Moving on to the Jets, obviously Zach Wilson, number 2 overall pick out of BYU, who I honestly, behind Trey Lance, I think is the second best quarterback in the draft, including Trevor Lawrence, by the way. Corey Davis, they're bringing over from the Titans, who looks like he might be ready for a breakout. Elijah Moore out of Ole Miss to go opposite of Corey Davis. Michael Carter out of North Carolina, the little speedster, coming out of in the 4th round. Tevin Coleman comes over from the 49ers, was replaced Raheem Mostert. But they lost Sam Darnold, so they're going to lose.
Please stop.
No. Okay, so let's be fair. Robert Saleh, his first year with the Jets, rookie quarterback, okay offensive line, a lot of talent in the skill positions. All right, they are talented in a lot of good places. Defense is okay, just okay. What do you think? I mean, basement dwellers for a season or two, right?
Do you know who this team? You're going to either get mad at me or call me a genius. Do you know who this team reminds me of?
Oh, no. I'm worried. I'm legitimately worried about asking.
This team reminds me of Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks with a poor defense. When you think about sort of like smaller quarterback, big arm, mobile, they got some guys that are some playmakers here and there, a little bit unproven in some spots, guys with chips in their shoulder, a shoddy offensive line, which I think we can agree on is sort of there. The Jets feel like the Seahawks, again, a younger Seahawks team with just a much poorer defense. I don't have high expectations for the Jets. I think the Jets are probably going to win 5-6 games because I think they're going to have, again, some magic with some of their younger guys that are playing pretty well. I also think Michael Carter, the kid at the UNC, is fantastic. And he's one of the guys that if we didn't get Najee Harris, I wanted Pittsburgh to draft him. Like, I really believe in that kid. Right.
They are running about four running backs right now because Carter didn't step up. It's like Tevin Coleman, Michael Carter, Ty Johnson, and Samaje Perine, who's like their power back. And he's kind of when you have 4 running backs, you don't have one. Let's put it that way. So it's going to be very. I don't know. I think it's gonna be a long season for the Jets. I would say the Bills probably walk away with that division with the Patriots kind of keeping step very close behind them. All right, I'm almost afraid to talk about this division because I think you and I are going to go at each other's throats a little bit. The AFC North. Now, I will admit, it's always a good fight. The AFC North is some of the favorite games over the last decade between all the teams. Browns are going to be good this year, possibly. The Ravens are definitely going to be good. The Steelers are going to be like, sure. And the Bengals are going to have Joe Burrow back after a long injury. So let's go team by team from bottom to top. Let's go over the Steelers. From bottom to top, like I said, they get Najee Harris, they get Pat Freiermuth. They technically get Roethlisberger back after end of last season. They started last season 12-0. So let's be fair. They started last season 12-0 and kind of fell off the planet as the season went on from there. Plus, I think when the playoffs started, when they made it the playoffs, I think everybody was feasting, ready to play them. They lose James Conner, Bud Dupree, Mike Hilton, Marquise Pouncey, Alejandro Villanueva, and Steven Nelson. That's the losses. But they do re-sign Juju Smith-Schuster. They've got Deontay Johnson. They've got James Washington still there, even though he's asking for a trade. They've got Chase Claypool in another year. They've got Najee Harris. Their offensive line's a sieve. Let's be fair. Their offensive line is not going to be good this year.
Unproven.
Okay. Unproven. If they can keep Ben, let's say they keep Ben Roethlisberger standing. I don't believe in Ben anymore. I think Ben's arm is shot. But in the preseason, he's actually looked good. Dwayne Haskins made the team too, by the way. Talk to me. Talk to me about the Steelers.
Listen, I am a very honest Steelers fan. I personally don't want us to win a lot of games this year, but I think it's also important to give context to last season. If you remember last year, yes, we started out 12-0, and yes, we faltered at the end of the season, and playoffs were not kind to us. But if you also remember, COVID hit this team where we had a game where we couldn't. There was a COVID game where it got canceled, and then we got sort of messed around, and they didn't give the Steelers a bye week. So the Steelers had like that really weird bye week sort of thing that was going on. I think they eventually got one, but it was like in a really weird thing, and it wasn't really.
They played the Ravens on like a Wednesday afternoon at some point, or like a Tuesday. Yeah,
it was super, super weird, and I think that again, they were an older team. They still kind of are in some ways, but like that obviously hurt them significantly. Ben has looked, to your point, way better than I think a lot of us would have thought he would have looked in the preseason. Mm-hmm. I fully expect them to be running a lot more West Coast this year, of those shorter routes and sort of like a lot of that sort of action with maybe some deep passes here and there. But I think this team, it's a Mike Tomlin coach team. I think they're going to sit slightly above 500. I don't think we're going to be blowing anybody out of the water. I think our defense is going to, TJ Watt's going to have to do a lot this year, but I think we're going to be slightly above 500 is where I sort of pick them.
I mean, to be fair, Joe Schobert and Devin Bush on the inside linebacker is one of the best inside linebacker combos going. I think Alex Highsmith really takes another step this year with Watt on the other side. I think that's going to be good. Joe Hayden's obviously lost a step with Cam Sutton on the other side. Now, Terrell Edmonds and Minkah Fitzpatrick should be interesting. Minkah, one of the best safeties in the NFL. It's without a doubt a top 10 defense. It's without a doubt a top 10 defense, and that may have to carry them. Let me ask you this, and before we go on to the Bengals, you said the thing above 500, like 9-8, maybe, right? Would you say 9-8 sounds about right? But we don't have to be 9-8, 9-8, 10-7.
Maybe plus two, or I'll say 10-7, 10-7.
Okay. Do you think the Bengals are above 500 too?
No.
Okay, so let me go over the Bengals real quick. First of all, again, they get Joe Burrow back. That's a big return. Riley Reef comes over from the Vikings. Okay. So, and that was what allowed them to get Jamar Chase in the first round, speed receiver out of LSU. Trey Hendrickson comes over from the Saints. He had 13.5 sacks, but he also had Cam Jordan on the team next to him. Chidobe Awuzie over from the Cowboys, who I think is a very good defensive back in that system. They lose AJ Green. I don't think that's a big loss. They lose Carl Lawson, who unfortunately got hurt this year. William Jackson to the Washington football team, who is a very, very good defensive back. I think Awuzie is actually a downgrade from William Jackson. And then Geno Atkins, who's not even signed right now, just with a shoulder injury. This is Zach Taylor's third year. Do you think what happens to the Bengals, and do you think Zach Taylor is maybe on a hot seat this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to look at Zach Taylor at the end of the year and say, you're not that guy, pal. And he's going to be looking for a coordinator job elsewhere. Look, I think Burrow is super talented, but again, coming off a major injury, it's going to be interesting. It's not so much the physical game. I think everyone knows Joe Burrow, when he's healthy, is phenomenal. What we saw in college, we're hoping it translates to the NFL. I think Burrow has all the talent in the world. Jamar Chase looked really weird in the preseason. It's like
he looked tentative.
He has like the yips. Like he just, it's like you see pro athletes go through all the time, like their body isn't correlating to like what they know how to do, and they've got to like work back that mental side of it. The Bengals do have a really fun team. Joe Mixon at running back. They have some receivers that I'm really fond of. I just don't know if this doesn't feel like a year. I don't think the Bengals are like a 2 or 3 win team. I think you can see the Bengals win 6, 7, maybe even 8 games if the schedule plays out right for him. But but I just don't have utter like massive confidence in them this
Let
year.
me ask you a question. This is a team that already had Auden Tate, Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins on it. T. Higgins, one of the
I love Higgins.
fastest up and coming, one of the fastest up and coming receivers going. When they chose, Sewell was still on the board. A franchise bookend tackle. Apparently, signing Riley Reef was what kind of like led to them taking Jamar Chase. Do you think they would have been better off if you have your franchise number one pick, Joe Burrow? Would they have been better off getting somebody to protect his backside? Like Reef is going to play right tackle, obviously. They have Jonah Williams there. I mean, but Sewell is a game-changing tackle.
I'm from the school of thought where you can never have enough offensive linemen. Again, as a Steelers fan, you can never have enough offensive linemen. You can never have enough linebackers, right? Like those are things that we obviously believe in as being, especially in our division. Our division alone, you should always have those two positions. You always need those guys. I wonder how much of it was like, we need something to get Joe Burrow like optimistic about staying here long term, right? And if you bring in Jamar Chase obviously comes in a year after. You're going to have the opportunity to then sign Burrow to a deal prior to that. Maybe they're thinking long term in that nature, but if I'm Joe Burrow, as much as I want to play with Jamar Chase again, I think he'll get over what he's dealing with right now, but I'd want someone to protect me more than I want, a good friend of mine from college to come over.
All right, so let's move on to the Browns here. I want to move on to the Browns because there's a chance they win this division. There's a chance they win a lot more than the division this year. This could be the year they got their taste of this. They got their taste of the playoffs last year. Jadeveon Clowney comes over from the Titans, who is huge reward, little risk. Honestly, they didn't have to get much for him. Takkarist McKinley comes over and is going to be opposite of Myles Garrett most of the time. Who's a great like road grading defensive end from the Falcons. They get John Johnson from the Rams, who's a massive upgrade on the defensive backfield. Greg Newsome out of Northwestern was one of the premier cornerback. Like, how do they? And then I want you, not only that, they got Jeremiah Owusu-Karamoa, who, if you're a Madden Ultimate Team guy, it's 84, it's an 89 speed. This dude might be one of the most athletic linebackers in the league already, and he's a cover guy, which is something they missed dearly inside. And only really lost, Olivier Vernon, who didn't do much for them. They lost two tackles with Richardson and Ogunjoboy. This team is set, man. They have arguably the best offensive line in football with Conklin, Teller, Treader, Bitonio, and Willis. They've got Landry, Beckham, Rashard Higgins, Donovan People-Jones. Like, that is a force on the dude. Donovan People-Jones could be starting for some teams, and he's probably 4 in this lineup. They've got Austin Hooper and David Njoku. Njoku's the second tight end in that lineup.
Ridiculous.
And Austin Hooper is crazy from Atlanta. Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, Annie Janovich is an all-pro. This team, and we're not going to talk about the defense. The defense is top 3. It's a top 3 defense. This team relies and will go as far as the arm and head of one Baker Mayfield. Now, we saw flashes last year of both the good and the bad from Baker Mayfield. More good than bad. And he led them to a playoff run. So is this the AFC North champion this year? And do they have a real chance of going further than that?
To me, this has to be. And also Andrew Berry, like, what a guy. Like, this team is disgusting. And I feel like the city of Cleveland should build a statue for him if they somehow win Super Bowl. Like, what that team has been able to assemble, they are paper champions. Like, we talked about in the NFC, how good the Rams were, how good the Bucs are. I don't think either of those teams on paper are better than what the Browns have. The Browns on paper are the scariest team in the NFL. Receivers loaded, running. Like, how do they have Nick Chubb? We know how they have him, but thinking through having Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt in the same backfield is a nightmare. It's going to be interesting to see how healthy Odell Beckham Jr. is. I think that's going to be a massive thing they have to sort out this year, but they have enough talent, I think, overall to sort of make up for that if he's not Odell that we sort of grew accustomed to, or at least think of him topically. That defense is beyond scary, man. I don't know how any team can really block those dudes. Coverage, they're going to be fine. I would not want to play the Browns this year. They're my AFC North champions, and it's not even close.
I would have said that they were going to be second in the AFC North before injuries started to fall for the Ravens. Yeah. And let's talk about the Ravens real quick, because I do think I agree with you. I think the Browns are going to win the AFC North, and I think it's going to be pretty far and away. I think they're going to be 2-3 games ahead. I think they go Chiefs this year. Like, I think they go maybe 15 wins out of 17, man. That's a good squad. Let's talk about the Ravens and the reason why I don't think they're going to be as good. Sammy Watkins comes over from the Chiefs. They needed that guy that can catch the third down pass. The Anquan Bolden role, even though Watkins is not Anquan Bolden. Alejandro Villanueva, we just talked about for the Steelers. He's going to take over right tackle for Orlando Brown, who's an all-pro. That's a downgrade. Rashad Bateman, who I was down when they drafted him, but everyone that's telling me that watched him in Minnesota, and everyone's watched him in drills and stuff when he was playing, says that he is one of the most polished receivers, maybe the second most polished receiver coming out behind Devontae Smith of the Eagles, and has the wheels to go along with it, which makes me feel good. Even though he's on the IR for the first 3 games of the season, it makes me curious if he is what we thought Hollywood Brown would be. And then Tylan Wallace out of Oklahoma State, who looks like he might actually get some time on this team with the injuries. They did lose Orlando Brown in a trade to the Chiefs. Yannick Ngakoue, who cares? Willie Snead, again, was good for us. But then Matthew Judon on a team that was worried about pass rushers doesn't look like he'll be missed too much. The one thing I will say for the Ravens, now we know about J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins out for the year, was playing the third preseason game and just went down with an ACL. Gus Edwards will take over that role, and I think Gus Edwards can take over that role as the lead back. He averaged, I think, almost 6 yards a carry last year. I think as long as he holds up, he can do it. Lamar Jackson, obviously a different type of talent. I think what holds this team back, I think their defense is top 5. Marlon Humphrey, Tavon Young's going to be a nickelback. You're going to look at that photograph. Marcus Peters is going to be in that defensive backfield. Chuck Clark and Deshaun Elliott both great in the safety area. Don't break yet.
The dumbest thing you've ever said, Mills.
Come on, it was great.
Jesus Christ.
So a really good defensive line with Calais Campbell, Brandon Williams, Justin Matabuki, Derek Wolfe. They've got Jalen Ferguson. Well, I mean, let's go over Patrick Queen, Malik Harrison in the middle now that LJ Fort went down. The real cool thing here is they signed Justin Houston for a minimal deal. Justin Houston admittedly took way less money to chase a championship with the Ravens. Matter of fact, I think they said he took less money from Steelers than what the Steelers were offering. They've got Tyus Bowser has looked good in camp. Jalen Ferguson's looking at camp. This kid, Odafio Owe, who is apparently running gunner, a linebacker who was running punt gunner.
Yeah.
They love him as a raw talent. This team is going to go as far as their head coach and their offensive coordinator.
Yep.
And I'm going to say this right now. I love John Harbaugh. I think he's an amazingly talented coach. I think he is too hard-headed for his own good at times. I know that Lamar Jackson is a hybrid quarterback. I know Lamar Jackson can throw the ball. We've seen Lamar Jackson throw the ball. I think that he and Greg Roman are afraid to allow him to be that quarterback, and they rely too heavily on the gadget offense. And that costs them in playoff games. People keep blaming Lamar Jackson for not being able to win playoff games. It's not Lamar. They handcuff him until the fourth quarter, and then all of a sudden they let him loose and let him throw the ball, and they start making comebacks. Like, let's just hope he doesn't get the poop scoops again against the Browns halfway through the game.
Jesus,
an amazing comeback. But either way, I really do believe the play calling on offense is going to hold this team back. And I don't think, because I think Greg Roman has a way he play calls. He does it everywhere he goes. He gets into this rut and then gets fired. He gets fired before he changes anything. And I think Harbaugh may be on the hot seat. Not this season. I think it warms up this season. I think if they don't make a deep playoff run, and I'm talking AFC championship game, which I don't think they'll get to, I think next season is it. I think next season is, hey, it's time, or we might have to start looking around. And that's crazy to say how effective and how successful this organization has been. It's widely known and widely thrown around as one of the top 3 organizations in football. Eric DaCosta has taken over for Ozzie Newsome, a GM, and been one of the most respected guys out there. It's kind of crazy to say that, but this team has serious failures, and it's their offense in the playoffs that always causes it.
Yeah, I mean, we're in full agreement here. It's all right. Lamar Jackson, his talent is through the roof. It's just, will Harbaugh and Roman let him be the guy that we all know he is, the dynamic two-way guy, not just a guy that can be your gadget guy. Stop treating him like Taysom Hill and let him be the full-fledged quarterback that we know he can be.
All right, so AFC South, let's speed around this bad boy. Colts, Jaguars, Texans, and Titans. Biggest additions to the Colts are Carson Wentz if he's healthy, which looks like he might be for week 1. Eric Fisher over from the Chiefs at offensive tackle. Kwity Paye, who I think is going to be running the Rookie of the Year running for the AFC, or Defensive Rookie of the Year. And Kylan Granson from SMU at tight end, who's going to be behind Trey Burton. They lose Rivers. No, I think it's not a big deal. Costanzo, I think, does hurt them a little bit. I'm sorry, Trey Burton left with Kyle Granson replacing him, and Jacoby Brissett, not a big deal. Jacksonville gets the number 1 overall pick, Trevor Lawrence. Travis Etienne was a big addition, but unfortunately he's out for the year. Will be James Robinson backing him up, with also Carlos Hyde down there. Get ready for him to start taking carries away. That's what he always does. Marvin Jones coming over, who I think is going to take the place of DJ Chark next to Chavot by midseason. DJ Chark, by the way, if you're going fantasy, don't pick him. He's an absolute bust. Chris Manhertz from the tight end from the Panthers, more blocking tight end. Shaquille Griffin from the Seahawks, very, very good cornerback from the Seahawks. Rayshon Jenkins. They lose Connolly and Keelan Cole. Houston Texans, Philip Lindsay, who will be the feature back at some point this season. I think this is his comeback. Mark Ingram, which I think will take over for David Johnson. I think David Johnson is on his way out, by the way. Tyrod Taylor. Oh, God, help us. Please don't curse Tyrod Taylor anymore. This dude deserves it. He needs to think of his family. I know. This dude, and he's a good quarterback is the problem. Davis Mills, who is going to be the quarterback out of Stanford, who I think has an extremely bright future in this league. Not this year. I think he takes over this Texans organization at some point. Anthony Miller coming over from the Bears. They lose J.J. Watt, Will Fuller, Randall Cobb, and more than likely Deshaun Watson will not play this year. And then you're talking about the Titans, who may have had one of the best off seasons in football, getting Julio Jones from the Falcons, Josh Reynolds from the Rams, Dez Fitzpatrick from Louisville. They already had a 6'2", 208 guy with a really good deep ball. Dylan Robbins from North Dakota State, who might actually slip in and start for them. Bud Dupree over from the Steelers for pass rush. They do lose Corey Smith and Jonnu Smith, or Corey Davis, Jonnu Smith, and Adam Humphries. But far and away, this is the Titans to lose, right?
Yeah, to me, if the Titans don't win this division, Mike Vrabel is going to have a really long offseason and a ton of questions coming his way. Titans are definitely built to win this division. They've got the defense. They have the fun offense. They have the dude that is 7'9", 297 pounds running the football, and Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry, yep.
They are built to win. I think the Texans are probably, I'm assuming Deshaun Watson's not there, so I think the Texans are probably your cellar dweller. I think the Jags, honestly, might. The Urban Meyer factor just blows me away. I still think he's going to quit before the end of the season, but I think the Jags can challenge the Colts a little bit. I think the Colts will end up being your second place team. Jags are third, Texans are fourth overall.
All right. I will say this, fantasy people, keep an eye on Josh Reynolds in the Titans. If for some reason Julio Jones goes down, that kid's going to get some run, and you're going to like what you see out of him coming over from the Rams. Just a heads up on that. I agree with you, by the way. Titans win it. I think the Jaguars are actually going to be good this year. I really wish they would have been able to hold on to Etienne at some point. The injury sucks. I think the Texans might win 3 games all this year. Honestly, I think I have Philip Lindsay in one of my fantasy leagues because I think he's going to be the main back, but I would stay as far away from that team as I possibly could. And the Colts, I just don't see any way with Carson Wentz. I think Carson Wentz is done. I think Carson Wentz got off on like one half a season as like MVP caliber, and I think he's been living off of that for a long time. Although I do want to see healthy Carson Wentz.
Same coordinator as that.
Yeah,
season,
no, the coordinator. So he's not coming into a weird offense. I will say I want to see a healthy Carson Wentz at some point. I don't think we've seen that yet. So AFC West, we get the Broncos, the Los Angeles Chargers, the Chiefs, and the Raiders. I think we all think the Raiders are going to win this. Anyway, so the Broncos with Teddy Bridgewater named starter. We talked about that last week. He will start over Drew Lock. Javonte Williams out of North Carolina, another running back out of North Carolina. Will probably back up Melvin Gordon to start the season, but keep your eye on that kid. Kyle Fuller coming over from the Bears. very, very good zone cornerback over there. Patrick Surtain the second in the first round, kind of a surprise pick, but that defense, man. And then Ronald Darby's coming over from Washington. I think that's another upgrade. That's their starting 3 cornerbacks right there. They do lose AJ Boye, who I think lost a step in Denver. Jarrell Casey was done anyway. Philip Lindsay, they've got plenty of running backs. Let's talk about the Raiders real quick. The Raiders get John Brown from the Bills, speedster on the outside. Kenyon Drake from the Cardinals, who I'm going to be real with you. I don't think Josh Jacobs makes it the year. I don't believe in Josh Jacobs. I think Kenyon Drake ends up getting more carries than him by the end of the season. Yannick Ngakoue from the Ravens, who better start playing like he's getting paid to play. And then Trevin Moehrig out of TCU in the safety backside. Look for him to be in the box a lot more too. I think that kid's really, really good. And he will start immediately. And then Casey Hayward, who he used to be a shutdown corner. He's also lost a step, but at least he'll bring some veteran experience. They lose Tyrell Williams, who had some good plays for them last year. Rodney Hudson, who is a perennial all-pro at center. That's going to be a huge loss for them. And then Nelson Aguilar went to the Patriots. Next up, we'll look at the Chargers. Jared Cook comes over from the Saints to replace Hunter Henry for Justin Herbert. Chase Daniel will back up Justin Herbert as Tyrod Taylor. Josh Palmer, who I think is going to be very, very good for them in limited time, came out of Tennessee in the 3rd round. Larry Roundtree, a running back, will back up Justin Jackson, Joshua Kelly. I do think, they're going to. I think he'll end up replacing the backup to Austin Eckler. I think he'll see time instead of those two. Rashawn Slater will be a left tackle for them. Kind of weird to see how that'll work out. Number 13 overall pick out of Northwestern. And Corey Linsley may be the biggest pickup. I love centers. I love good centers. Coming over from Green Bay really anchors that line. All they really lost is Melvin Ingram to the Steelers, obviously, and then Hunter Henry to the Patriots. Last but not least, the favorite, I think, in everybody's hearts, the Kansas City Chiefs. The Ravens handed them one of the top offensive lines in the league by giving them Orlando Brown Jr. Jerick McKinnon will be over there to complement CEH. Joe Thuney is coming over as a guard. One of the biggest problems they had in the Super Bowl was the offensive line, right? Listen to this. Orlando Brown, Joe Thuney, Creed Humphrey, who will be able to back up in the interior or may even start for them out of Oklahoma. Oklahoma offensive line, just factory. Nick Bolton will be a linebacker, will probably start for them. And then Noah Gray will back up Travis Kelce out of Duke. They only lose Damian Williams and Sammy Watkins. My God. All right. Real quick. The Raiders win 4 games this year. And they'll be lucky to win 4. Derek Carr isn't it. Derek Carr ain't it. Derek Carr has shown time and time again he cannot lead that offense. And John Gruden's not helping the situation.
Yeah, I mean, didn't he cut? Wasn't Rodney Hudson cut, if I remember correctly?
Yeah, they cut him, I think, for money at one point. I think it was.
There are plenty other people to cut, in my opinion, than Rodney Hudson. But
by the way, Andre James is starting for them. Andre James, that's all you need to know. That's all you need to know is Andre James.
I just, if I'm picking this division, obviously Chiefs are my easy bread and butter. I'm saying I struggle a little bit on this one. I like the Broncos more because of their defense, and I love Teddy B, and I'd like to see the Broncos finish second. I think the Chargers, they've been a first-year head coach coming in after Anthony Lynn sort of mismanaged a lot of stuff there, especially late.
Brandon Staley, yep.
So Staley being the first-year head coach, I'm going to give them third, and then Raiders obviously have fun with that first or second pick in the draft.
I agree with you that the Chiefs are going to win. I think the Chiefs take a step back from last year, though. I think the fact that Clyde Edwards-Helaire was often injured, I think them not having a really sure running game. I love Tyreek Hill, obviously. I love Travis Kelce. That was the other thing is Travis Kelce had probably the best year of a tight end in a very long time. It's going to be incredibly hard to repeat that. Obviously, he is the number one focus on that offense next to Tyreek Hill. The other thing is, too, is Mecole Hardman for real? Good season last year, but he kind of plays the same role that Tyreek Hill does. Sure. Mecole Hardman, they're both very similar receivers. I don't like the fact that Jerick McKinnon might be the backup there, even though Darrell Williams is there. I don't like the running back depth there. I worry about how that offensive line is going to meld together early. I do think they're the top of the West. I think the Broncos are way closer than anyone thinks. And I think a lot of that is Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah.
Teddy Bridgewater fits with Jerry Jeudy very well. Jerry Jeudy last year was running the X. He was running over the top. That's not his spot. Cortland Sutton is back, will take over that spot. And it's going to allow Jerry Jeudy to work the inside, the medium, what Jerry Jeudy does best. And I think that's going to be a massive upgrade. Look for Jerry Jeudy, fantasy-wise, to be a top 10 receiver, if not higher this year. And that defense is no joke for the Broncos. You want to talk about a passing league? They're built to stop a passing league. They're starting backfield. They have Von Miller and Bradley Chubb still rushing the passer. Their starting defensive backfield are Kyle Fuller, Patrick Surtain Jr., Kareem Jackson, Justin Simmons, Ronald Darby, Bryce Callahan is in that mix too.
Jesus Christ.
They're very, very good defensively. They're going to stay with some teams, and they are built. You ready for this? They are built to beat the Chiefs. That is what that team is built to do. They match up very well. They're going to give the Chiefs problems this season. You watch what I tell you. Chiefs still win the division, but the Broncos very much make it the playoffs. All right, give me your 4 division winners again. Talk to me your 4 division winners, and then tell me who you think is going to be the 4 wild cards. 4 wild cards this year.
Okay.
I'm sorry. 3 wild cards.
3 wild cards.
3 wild cards. Yep.
So I'm going Bills in the AFC East. I'm going Chiefs in the AFC West. I'm going Browns in the AFC North, and then AFC South. I'm going Titans.
Got it.
Wild card. I'm going to go with Ravens.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Broncos.
Wait, say it again. I lost the last one.
Sorry, Ravens and Broncos.
Okay.
And then I'm going Steelers. I think my Steelers are going to edge out that last team.
I agree with you. Bills, Chiefs, Browns, Texans, Ravens are the wild card, probably the first one. I think the Broncos definitely make it. I think the Patriots take the other wild card spot. I think we're going to see them, and I think they're going to beat somebody in the first round. I think that team is going to be well gelled. They've got a rookie quarterback's dream: a good offensive line, good receivers, great tight ends. They got Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry, and you know how Bill Belichick loves his ace sets. So, give me the AFC Championship game, and who is going to face for you the Rams in the Super Bowl?
I'm going Chiefs and I'm going Browns. I'm picking the front runners here. I'm going to say the Browns and that pass rush, even with the rebuilt offensive line, give the Chiefs a little bit of problems, and the Browns are going to the Super Bowl.
You and I are gonna have fun with this one. I think the Browns and the Bills make it to the championship game. I think this is the Bills' year to make another step. I think the Browns beat the Bills in the championship game, and I think they're the Super Bowl team. I agree with you. I have to agree. They're too good. You just said they're one of the scariest teams on paper we've seen in a very long time, offensively and defensively. So for you, your Super Bowl is Rams, Browns. My Super Bowl is, as I predicted before, Washington and the Browns. Who wins?
No one, if that's the Super
Oh my God. No, who wins the Rams and the Browns?
I'm going to go Rams. I think the Browns choke up in the big game. Probably a couple of injuries here and there, but I go Rams.
I agree that the Browns are going to choke. I think Baker Mayfield ends up costing the Browns the Super Bowl, and I think the Washington football team are the team that does. It's very interesting that the Rams have a great quarterback, where I won't say the Washington has a great quarterback, but the teams are built very similarly. Like they're very good pass rush, a very good front seven. I think Washington's defensive backfield is way better than the Rams, but at the same time, I think the Rams have a better quarterback and probably a better offensive line. So it'll be interesting to see how the season plays out. So you've got Rams, Browns, the Browns winning. I've got Washington, Browns, with Washington winning.
I had Rams winning, not Browns winning.
The Rams winning. Sorry, the Rams winning. So we have NFC Super Bowl winners again. By the time we talk next time, we will be one day away from NFL football. College football this weekend. So I can't wait. We're starting up. Go play Campus Legends on Madden. It's actually really, if your Madden doesn't crash on you, it's actually really fun. It's a lot of fun. Pick the Florida Gators, Tim Tebow, Kyle Pitts, Percy Harvin. All you need to know. There's so much cheese.
There's no Kyle Trask on that team, just for the record. So
Yeah, no Kyle Trask. Unfortunately, the best quarterback in this draft, right?
Jesus Christ. On that note, tweet us your AFC, NFC predictions. We'd love to hear them. Who do you have winning the Super Bowl? We want to hear about them in Mill Stream, my stream, on Twitter, wherever you essentially do your conversating. You want to be a part of it. That'll be it for this week.
Overplayed, the Overplayed podcast on Twitter. OVRPLYD pod on Twitter.
Basically,
at OVRPLYD pod.
The only vowel is the O. All the other vowels are gone, and someone else has that account, so we couldn't get it. So that's why it's really hard to.
Damn them.
What's that account? I hate you.
Wrap us up.
That is it, though, for the episode. Again, tweet us your predictions. We want to hear from them. But we'll be back next Thursday. Same bad channel, same bad time. Be safe, be smart, tell somebody you love them. Catch you guys in the next one.
Ciao.